House Republicans want to strip Mamdani of citizenship. No, they can't do this. This is fake. 2 House Republicans push the Justice Department to probe his path to citizenship and possibly boot him from the U.S. Randy Fine, of course. Hitler but fat. Randall Adam Fine is an American politician and former gambling industry executive serving from Florida. Incredible. All you need to know. Speaking of that bigotry, Zohran Mamdani put out a video where he reiterated some of the points in the speech we saw yesterday.
6 years ago, shortly after I had announced I was running for assembly, a well-meaning Muslim uncle pulled me aside. He smiled softly and looked at me with care. In a quiet voice, he told me I did not have to tell people I was Muslim. His eyes kind, his beard proud, and his face heavy with the implication of the unsaid. I had not learned the lesson that he had been taught, time and again. It is the lesson that safety could only be found in the shadows of our city, that it is in those shadows alone where Muslims could embrace the fullness of our own identities, and that if we are to emerge from them, then it is in those shadows where we must leave our faith. These are lessons that so many Muslim New Yorkers have been taught again and again.
The focus.
And over these last few days, these are the lessons that have become the closing message of Andrew Cuomo, Curtis Sliwa, and Eric Adams. Yesterday, Andrew Cuomo laughed and agreed when a radio show host said that I would cheer another 9/11. Yesterday, Eric Adams said that we can't let our city become Europe. He compared me to violent extremists, and he lied when he said that our movement seeks to burn churches and destroy communities. The day before that, Curtis Sliwa slandered me from a debate stage when he claimed that I supported global jihad. And every day, Super PAC ads imply that I am a terrorist or mock the way I eat. Push polls that ask New Yorkers questions like whether they support invented proposals to make halal mandatory, or political cartoons that represent my candidacy as an airplane hurtling towards the World Trade Center. But I do not want to use this moment to speak to them any further. I want to use this moment to speak to the Muslims of the city.
He's got to turn it back. He needs to become like ragingly freedophobic. He has to become very bigoted against Italians.
I want to speak to the memory of my aunt, who stopped taking the subway after September 11th because she did not feel safe in her hijab. I want to speak to the Muslim city worker, whether they teach in our schools or walk the beat for the NYPD. New Yorkers who all make daily sacrifices on behalf of this city only to see their leaders spit in their face. I want to speak to every child who grows up in New York marked as the other, who is randomly selected in a way that rarely feels random, who feels that they carry a stain that can never quite be cleaned.
Islamophobia is way too normalized in the U.S. Yeah, the crazy thing is it's gotten a lot worse in the last 2 years, and mostly because of Democrats. The Democratic Party has adopted a lot of Islamophobia to defend Israel. Prior to that, I'm not saying there were no Islamophobic Democrats, but certainly like as a front point, it wasn't something you really got from Democrats that often. They've really ramped it up. The Republicans have been consistently racist across the board for a while now. That's not new. But Democrats are the ones who got aggressively anti-immigration as soon as Biden came in, anti-Muslim as soon as October 7th happened. You know, they have been really ramping it up.
Growing up in the shadow of 9/11, I have known what it means to live with an undercurrent of suspicion. I will always remember the disdain I faced, the way my name could immediately become Muhammad, and how I could return to my city only to be asked in a double-mirrored room at the airport if I had any plan of attacking it. And since I was very young, I have known that I was spared the worst of it. I was never pressured to be an informant like a classmate of mine. I have never had the word terrorist spray-painted on my garage as one of my staff had to endure. My mosque has never been set on fire. To be Muslim in New York is to expect indignity. But indignity does not make us distinct. There are many New Yorkers who face it. It is the tolerance of that indignity that does. Since I announced my candidacy for mayor 1 year ago yesterday, I've sought to be the candidate fighting for everyday New Yorkers, not simply the Muslim candidate. I've carried these indignities with me each moment of this race, doing so all the while as the first major Muslim candidate for mayor in New York City history. I thought that if I could build a campaign of universality, I could define myself as the leader I aspire to be, one representing every New Yorker, no matter their skin color or religion. I thought if I worked hard enough, it would allow me to be that leader. And I thought that if I behaved well enough or bit my tongue enough in the face of racist, baseless attacks while returning back to my central message, It would allow me to be more than just my faith. I was wrong. No amount of redirection is ever enough.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're never going to bite your tongue out of this mess, right? The only way to really confront bigotry is to make anti-bigotry cooler than bigotry. I mean, you need to be as strong of an advocate for opposing bigotry as the bigots are for advocating theirs, you know? You have to always like direct the conversation. This always happens, man, you know? It's like how America became like in so many ways like all the evils of the Third Reich were like stigmas that America fought against in World War II. Not to say America wasn't racist back in the 1940s, of course we were, but we still had to challenge that. There were lots of Union soldiers who were pro-slavery before the Civil War, but as the Civil War went on, they were writing letters home about how slavery was an ungodly evil and every slaver should be put to death. And, a lot of it is just like, whether or not you've been exposed to how bad it really is. And a lot of it is also that in the process of being made a soldier against that, you kind of have to stigmatize it. You know what I mean? You're drawing a contrast here. Likewise, you have to militantly oppose bigotry. It's not enough to just be better than it. You have to be an even better advocate against it than they are for it.
In doing this, I have told the wide-eyed young boy in Jackson Heights or the first-time voter in Parkchester that they too should remain in the shadows. I am becoming that same uncle who took me aside. No more. The dream of every Muslim is simply to be treated the same as any other New Yorker. And yet for too long we have been told to ask for less than that and to be satisfied with whatever little we receive. No more. For as long as we have lived, we have known that no matter what anyone says, there are still certain forms of hate acceptable in this city today. Islamophobia is not seen as inexcusable. One can incite violence against our mosques and know that condemnation will never come. Elected officials in this city can sell T-shirts calling for my deportation without fear of any accountability. The consequences are stark. More than 1 million Muslim New Yorkers exist in this city only to be made to feel as if guests in our own home. No more. We stand on the precipice of an election, but that is not what today is about. We know that in less than 2 weeks, we will say goodbye to a disgraced former governor and our current indicted mayor. The bigger question is whether we are willing to say goodbye to something much larger. It is whether we are willing to say goodbye to anti-Muslim sentiment that has grown so endemic in our city that when we hear it, we know not whether the words were said by a Republican or by a Democrat. We know only that it was spoken in the language of the politics of this city. In an era of ever-diminishing bipartisanship, Islamophobia has emerged as one of the few areas of agreement. Mm-hmm. And while I appreciate all who have
across the whole Democratic Party, too. Yeah, 100%.
To my defense over the past 2 days, I think of those Muslims in this city who do not have the luxury of being the Democratic nominee, who do not have the luxury of being deemed worthy of solidarity. While my opponents in this race have brought this hatred to the forefront, this is just a glimpse into what so many Muslims have had to endure every day across the 5 boroughs that we call home. And while it would be easy to say that this is not who we are as a city, we know the truth. This is who we have allowed ourselves to become. A question lies before each of us. Will we continue to accept a narrow definition of what it means to be a New Yorker that makes smaller the number of those guaranteed a life of dignity? Will we remain in the shadows, or will we together step into the light? There are 11 days remaining until Election Day.
Ooh.
I will be a Muslim man in New York City each of those 11 days, and every day that follows after that. I will not change who I am. I will not change how I eat. I will not change the faith that I am proud to belong to. But there's one thing I will change. I will no longer look for myself in the shadows. I will find myself in the light. Thank you.
It's an interesting tenor change towards the end of a campaign, but I think it works in his favor, you know? It's also pretty warranted, considering all the slop he's had to deal with. Didn't Adams and Cuomo get together recently? I'm trying to find them together. As a Muslim in the West, this feels emotional to watch. I wonder if one of the reasons gay and trans culture seems so ubiquitous in spite of the pushback that it's received is because by virtue of their connection to mainstream culture or to media or something else, I'm not sure. I feel like gay and trans people have always been really, really, really unapologetic about their existence, very loud, very active in a way that's not always like there aren't that many trans people in the United States, but they feel pretty prominent culturally. Not just like, oh, here's a Hollywood actress or whatever, but more broadly, I guess, in their influence over media and especially online culture. And I wonder if, like, in the long run, the reason why any effort to kind of suppress them culturally will fail is because the cat's out of the bag, Pandora's box is open, they're already out there. I wonder if that's the template everyone has to follow, You have to be kind of shameless with it. You have to just throw yourself out there, and once you're ubiquitous enough, there's no going back. Imagine trying to, like, reintroduce anti-Irish or Italian discrimination now. I mean, past a point, you're past the expiration date. You can't do it anymore. I agree. It's a terrible looking shirt.
I feel you. Brothers fight. Many people don't know because I got my tooth fixed, but my brother threw me to the sidewalk and chipped my tooth when I was a little boy. But when families are attacked, brothers...
Can new bigotries be created? Honestly, in order for a bigotry to take root, it has to have some kind of, like... It's pretty difficult to make them up whole cloth. You either have to attach it to an existing bigotry or pull from something historically. It's pretty difficult to pull it out of nowhere.
Come together. They understand that you have to protect the family. And immigrant families are under attack in this city. Working class people are under attack. African Americans and Hispanic families are under attack. Italian and Irish families are under attack. When you give the finger to a statue that's representative to the Italian community, you're saying you don't give a damn.
He's talking about Mamdani giving a finger to a Christopher Columbus statue 5 years ago.
When you tell Jewish residents that you need globalized intifada, you're saying you don't care. When you go after communities and state that you're going to raise their taxes because of their ethnicity, that's what black and brown communities are going through right now. Taxes are higher in their community because of what was done. We're not going backwards, folks. And so this was a grueling time. And yes, am I angry that I'm not the one taking down Zohran, the socialists and the communists? You're darn right I am. But you know what? The city means more.
Remember when this guy narrowly won the mayoral primary and was immediately invited to the White House, where he met with House Democrat leaders and also with Joe Biden? And there were people like, I believe Ezra Klein, or maybe it was Iglesias, talking about how he might be the future of the party.
To me than anything. And it is time for us as a family to come together. New York can't be Europe, folks. I don't know what is wrong with people. You see what's playing out in other countries because of Islamic extremism. Not Muslims, let's not mix this up. But those Islamic extremisms that are burning churches in Nigeria, that are destroying communities in Germany, that have taken over the logical thinkings.
Logical thinkings. Just two Democrats standing side by side.
That's what I'm fighting for. I'm fighting for the family of New York. That's why I'm here today, to endorse Andrew Cuomo.
Again, just like, genuinely, imagine if this Islamophobia was transcribed onto any other identity. Nothing else would be acceptable. If you talked about Jewish people this way, you would already be in, like, court, basically. It would be over instantly,
To be part of this fight. And I'm going to give it my all these next few days to make sure that black and brown...
Is it possible for America to ever go back to anti-black discrimination, or is it too late now? Well, we fixed racism, as is well known, so I think it's too late to go back now at this point, yeah. No, okay, obviously anti-black discrimination still exists, but it is pretty difficult for Republicans to go back to nominal anti-black discrimination, which is the reason why they have to still code it. Like, Islamophobia, they say it openly, very, very openly, you know? And they say it openly about like illegal migrants, right? When it comes to black Americans, there's this veiled coding about like Trump does the low IQ thing. He says low IQ about every black person who doesn't like him. They talk about crime and so on. I genuinely think that like a project of open anti-black bigotry would be disqualifying even for the GOP today. I know that sounds insane because you think like, you know, how far have they gone, right? But you have to remember that most people are really stupid. And there are a lot of Republicans who genuinely do not understand what they're advocating for. They don't understand what they're building. So if the Trump administration just openly started dropping the N-bomb or talking about how blacks and whites can't get along and that this is a white country and so on, I genuinely don't think it would work that well. I think it would lead to a lot of infighting. That's the reason they have to use coded language. They talk about this being a Christian country, right? You know? Again, we understand what they're saying, but it makes a difference to a lot of people.
Communities specifically who have believed.
I'm sorry, it's just a reminder because I'm doing the segment, but I'm sick right now. It's hard for me to talk. So if my points come across a little bit more trite and poorly explained, you'll have to blame that for that.
There's nothing at stake in this election for them. It is. When you empty out 3,000 people in Rikers Island who preyed on these communities, that's at stake. When you state that you don't believe small property owners have the right.
The Fuentes types would love it. The Fuentes types, you mean the non-white neo-Nazis? Did you guys see that fucking Twitter thing where Myron Gaines of the Fresh and Fit podcast was like, yeah, I love Hitler. Hitler wasn't racist against black people, just Jews. And then Zoomer Historian quote tweeted him, was like, no, your epic, gay, wholesome Chungus Hitler wasn't real. Hitler was racist. And then Zoomer Historian went on to make a video saying, yes, Hitler was racist from the pro-Hitler perspective, where he was like, what's with all these non-white Hitler lovers? Isn't that fucking hilarious? So funny. Sorry, man, like 90% of Hitler worshippers are like Indonesian, Indian, Mexican. Who's Zoomer Historian? Nazi YouTuber.
To charge a moderate rent, that's at stake. When you lie and state that you can freeze rent, you can't freeze rent in NYCHA, you can't freeze rent in Mitchell-Lamas, you can't freeze rent in market rate housing, you can't freeze rent, but you are lying and telling people
you can't freeze rent in market rent housing. Really? That's what a startling insight. Really? Wow. Thank you.
You could do so. We're fighting against a snake oil salesman that has sold us a bill of goods. And who is his base of support? Gentrifiers. Gentrifiers have raised the rent in the city and disrespected communities for far.
Mamdani actually wants to raise the rent. I have approved rent increases multiple times by not freezing the rent, and I get along very well with the landlord class. Mamdani wants to raise your rent.
Too long, and he's the king of the gentrifiers. This is going to be a raw, buckle fight on the streets, one block at a...
Well, that's code for white people. No. It's just reactionary Democrats go to id poll the moment they're flanked from the left. They do it literally every time. Literally every time with no exceptions, okay? Maybe the Graham Plattner thing is necessary. Maybe you need to break down the doors and lower the standards for civility and discourse in the Democratic Party down to zero as well. Because it's the only way to like lower the conversation beneath the, well, Bernie Sanders, your policy may improve the lives of Americans, but will it what is it going to do for black transgender women of color? You know? I don't know. Can GOG Galaxy stop popping up and telling me to fucking update? It's closed. It's closed and it's like update. It's done this twice today. What the fuck?
Time, one building at a time, and we're ready to take it on, and that's why I'm here today. So yes, while you criticize Andrew and you called them names, you know what, and he called me names, but you know what, now it's time to fight for the family, and I'm gonna fight for the family with Andrew Cuomo as the next mayor of the city of New York.
God, their shirts look like such ass.
Thank you. Thank you very much. First, I want to thank Mayor Adams for his support, but more than for his support, The mayor put his own ambition aside because he cares more about New York City. And he believes Zohran is an existential threat to New York City. And we all have to do our best to make sure that Zohran does not become the next.
You want to see a really good casual button down? Real quick. This is my favorite casual button down. They don't even offer traditional men's shirting sizes. This is from Wythe. Look at this beautiful button down Oxford. Look at that. Look at the difference when you're looking at a shirt with the actual texture and character of a high quality cotton fabric, you know? That looks real nice. It makes me wish I was wearing some of that right now. But, you know, also a different body type. Irrelevant. We're not, I'm literally just talking about the shirt, man. You got to separate the, yeah, okay, this is a male model, sure. But you got to separate that. We're just talking about this. By the way, that's a bullshit excuse because older Italian men and ripped, like, older black dudes both can look fucking amazing in shirts. This is like a well-known thing, okay? You know what I mean? Like, it's not as though, like, this disqualifies them. Adams is pretty fucking big, right? You can't really tell because his shit-ass shirt kind of hides the detail, but...
Mayor. And the mayor put his own personal ambition and ego aside to make sure he's doing everything he can to make sure that New York remains New York. And I applaud him for that, and I have great respect for that. And the mayor is exactly right. We've known each other a long time. Mayor served in the Senate. I was governor. We worked together for many years. We are from the same family. We are Democrats. We are Democrats. And we
both ran as independents. It's just a fucking joke. It's a fucking joke. Like, it's actually a joke. It's insane how much of a joke it is.
Been Democrats all our lives. My father was a Democrat. This is a democratic city with a democratic tradition. And Zohran is not a Democrat. Democratic socialist is a different thing. It shouldn't even have the word democratic in front of it. They are socialists.
I agree, because socialism is inherently democratic. I agree. You know, you shouldn't say democratic socialist because it implies that socialism isn't democratic. I agree. Thank you.
Look up the platform of the Democratic Socialists of America. It has nothing to do with the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party believes in public safety, believes in law and order. We don't believe the NYPD is a bunch of racists and wicked and corrupt and a threat to public safety. We believe we need more police officers. David Dinkins, Mayor David Dinkins, a great Democrat. What did he do when he took over New York City and there was a crime problem? He hired more police. That's what Democrats do. Democrats do not...
Endorsed candidate, by the way, implicitly from the entire Democratic establishment. We're so fucked in this country, man.
Propose anti-Semitic policies. Democrats have stood with Israel always.
Oh my fucking god, dude. Oh my god. He can't even help himself. Man, you're supposed to pretend. Remember how the point they were pretending was that Zohran was the one who was obsessed with Israel? Why the fuck would you bring it up out of nowhere? Why?
As an ally. That's what Democrats do. Democrats are not anti-corporate, anti-business. Democrats want to produce jobs, opportunity for people. That's what Democrats do. Zohran called Barack Obama evil and a liar. We think Barack Obama was a great Democratic president. Zohran didn't support Kamala Harris against Trump. He was part of the Leave It Blank party. We supported Kamala Harris against Trump, because we are Democrats, and this city is about Democrats, and this city is about caring for all of its people. Democrats are also uniters, not dividers. And there's been too much division from Zohran's campaign. You've seen it with the Jewish community. Mayor's right. You've seen it with the Italian-American community, giving the Christopher Columbus statue the finger.
Remember when, like, this was a plot point in The Sopranos, and it was funny? Like, and the joke in the show, which was set in the 90s, was that all of the Italians who were upset by it were only pretending to be upset. Like, it was an imagined slight to their ego. In reality, they didn't know anything about Columbus or care about him. Like, it was like, when watching it, you're supposed to understand they're being stupid, belligerent, and xenophobic, and that the students are in the right. And here we are in 2025.
That the Italians would say is un disgraziato. That's what
great.
the Italians would say. We've seen it with the LGBTQ community, where he smiles in pictures with people who oppose the LGBTQ community, have proposed laws that makes it illegal to be a member of the LGBTQ community. That's not what the Democratic Party is all about. And we're going to make sure New Yorkers know what's at stake. This is the future of New York City is at stake.
Just throwing shit in the wall? Yeah, but you, again, like, the underlying tendency here is a deference to idpol. We need to eradicate idpol. The moment somebody brings up idpol, the moment somebody tries to invoke it, like, that should be a million red flags running in your head. He's not talking about policy. He's just running through every like, come on. The idea that Cuomo has never met with anti-LGBTQ people when he has met with Trump to try to coordinate a victory in this campaign. Like, come on.
If you don't respect law and order and the police, you're going to see crime go up. You see crime go up, you're going to see people in this community suffer. You're anti-business,
No war but class war. I am not and never have been a class reductionist, but I have always believed that the best way to advocate for queer people and for progressive policies is to just take them as matter of fact and mock and smear people who disagree. Like, I'm not pro-trans rights because I've come to a reasoned position after reviewing the evidence and blah, blah. The evidence is great, sure, fine. But this is a done deal in my head. This is, as far as I'm concerned, like, this is a pretty obvious yes or no. I wouldn't have a serious conversation with somebody who believed the earth was flat. I would mostly just ridicule them. I'm proud of that fact. If you're anti-trans, I don't really consider this a point where I need to meet in the middle, or I should try to reason with you. I just think largely you should be mocked. Then I'll make fun of you, and then I'll say, well, we should talk about, like, the actual policies. You know, what policies do you want? Because they don't want to talk policies. They want to, you know, gibber on about, like, you know, whatever fucking fake statistics they've come up with, or their hatred, or they want to, you know, talk about this or that. It's a waste of time to engage with these people or take them seriously. And I think the same attitude should be taken with fake idpol fuckers like you know? You can't take it seriously. What would Zohran do here? Like actually try to engage with the argument that you're anti-Italian because you don't like Christopher Columbus, a mass slaver who was so detestable that he was condemned even in his day for brutality against natives? Come on. Serial child fucker, Christopher Columbus.
corporation. You want to penalize corporations, penalize wealth. You're going to see more people leave New York. You're going to see less revenue for New York.
Wait, he was a pedo too? You can take, I'm speaking generally here, and there's plenty of specific stuff against Columbus, but as a general rule, if you are reading up on the history of a guy who did mass enslavements and, like, fucked the slaves, they're fucking kids too. There's no moral qualm in the mind of a person that would enslave and kill people and fuck the slaves that would stop them then from fucking the kids. You're already pretty much in a moral black hole. You're not, you know, you're already going to hell, I guess, in their head.
This will decide the future of New York City. And that's why we're going to do everything we can to make sure New Yorkers know what's at stake. I thank the mayor. I thank him for supporting me. I thank him more for supporting the Democratic Party and for his love of New York City and New Yorkers. Thank you.
Yeah, nuts. In his case, there's not really any speculation to be had. He talked about it pretty openly.
Hold on. Oh, we gonna answer your question. We're gonna answer your question. What you find, and you know,
To be fair, they might just not want to fuck kids them out. And yet, for Christopher Columbus specifically, you know, listen. All I'm saying is, if you say Christopher Columbus did a given bad thing, you're probably correct. I'm just saying you're probably fair, and we have laundered the fuck out of this guy's reputation. You know, a lot of people, they think Christopher Columbus is bad because he like killed natives. Buddy, if all he did was kill natives, he would be a saint compared to who he actually was, okay? There are written records of Columbus providing children as young as 10 to many of his lieutenants. You're 100% correct. Yeah, they had a whole like pedophile patronage system, which is my understanding how the White House works these days too. Again, like he was censured by Italian officials for being too evil in the 1600s. Or 14... Well, I'm sorry. Why am I blanking on the 1600s? Spanish, not Italian. Fuck you. 1500s, yeah. I'm sick. Fuck you.
I spoke to Andrew about it, and I spoke to others about it. The difference... How you doing, Jackie? The difference between our campaigns is, you see with this loud person, this is the nasty attitude of many of Zohran's supporters. They come into communities, they think they have the only voice, they're disrespectful, they're nasty, they're rude. This is what we have witnessed. They want to yell and scream. Go hold your own press conference. We're here.
Always the deference to civility. Yeah, Skylar. Every single time. Every single fucking time. Every time. The same thing. Like, these people, they're the most evil people in the fucking world, but this is what they defer to every time because all they care about is staying in power. They're so entitled. They're so fucking indignant.
They're communicating a mission and a voice. You don't see us
in this respect, they were both correct. They are Democrats, true.
Doing that at their press conference. Go hold your own press conference and stop being a numerical minority and think you're going to overshout people who are in this community. That's the same energy of a gentrifier. Disrespectful, mean, nasty, don't respect the communities they're in. What she needs to do is shut up and let us...
Gentrifier is when you yell at the mayor for lying during a press conference. Yeah, man. Uh-huh. Yes, sir.
Finish our press conference and doing what we're doing.
Andrew, you've shown some concern this week that if Curtis Lewa doesn't drop out for your chances, you've shown concern for your chances.
Oh my
God.
God.
Now that the mayor's endorsing you, what kind of ground do you think you can make up with his base of support?
Look, I think New Yorkers vote, I win. New Yorkers vote, I win. New Yorkers reject this socialism, reject division. If New Yorkers vote, I win. What we want to do is just make sure New Yorkers know how important this election is and what's at stake, and get New Yorkers up and out to vote. That's it.
Governor, on the radio this morning,
One at a time. I'm sorry, say it again.
This morning on the radio, you said, God forbid there's another 9/11. And the co-host said, referring to Mr. Mamdani, he'd be cheering. Your response to that was chuckle and then, well, that's another thing. Mr. Mamdani has said that your comments were Islamophobic and disgusting.
Yeah, everything is first of all, I didn't make that comment.
You're always about to say everything is Islamophobic. After he and Adams have called Mamdani every, like, whiny idpol slur in the book. Now he's like, oh yeah, Islamophobia, like that's a real thing.
There was no co-host. It was a radio show that I was on. I was not
in which you agreed with the statement made by the person who said the comment.
Co-host of the radio show. I was, yeah. The host said whatever the host said. All right, that's the host. Go talk to the host about that. I said
Remember, this guy carries with him the implicit endorsement of the Democratic Party. Like, this is the uphill battle we're fighting. Again, I see these globe heads sometimes. I see people who are tentative. You know, they're a little hands off. They're worried about people like Platner, which fair given Platner's recent behavior, or Mamdani or whatever else. But you got to understand that, like, as long as people like this control and are favored by the Democratic Party, we have no hope. Absolutely none. We are so fucked. And you're just as fucked as me. It's not even about achieving socialist values. It's about achieving liberal. Like, I'm lowering the bar. I'm not making that, you know, like, oh, it's socialism or bust. Buddy, the preservation of democracy in this country for the next election would be at this point a miracle of functional democracy. And we cannot do that if people like this are the ones leading the charge, which is what the Democrats want.
About 9/11, that's another problem referring to what I have said repeatedly, which is I have a problem with the fact that Zohran pals around with Hassan Piker.
Who gave him this point? Who gave him this talking point?
Who said America deserved 9/11. I did a press conference with Wendy and Sal Turchio.
Was it like Richie Torres? Genuinely, like, who talked to Cuomo and said, you know who you should keep bringing up? An LA-based live streamer. For a comment made years ago.
Sal is dying from 9/11 illness. 10,000 New Yorkers have 9/11 illness. 3,000 died on 9/11. You want to say America deserved 9/11? You insult all the families.
This is also IDPOL and civility politics, by the way.
Of all the people, you insult all the families of all the victims of 9/11, of all the victims of 9/11 illness. It is an insult to all New Yorkers. I did a press conference weeks ago and asked him to denounce that statement, and he refused.
Actually, he directly denounced it, which was kind of funny.
He refused. That is an insult to New Yorkers. And yes, I have a problem with that.
One at a time. Wait, hold on. We're going to do this one at a time or we're bouncing. You're not going to be yelling all over the place at me. We're going to do it one at a time, and I'm only doing a few more, and I'm going. I said what I had to say.
Last question, guys. You have seen some lost ground among the Hispanic community. Do you think this alliance will help? The mayor is very popular among the Hispanic community, so are you. But Mr. Mamdani has gained some ground within the Hispanic community. How do you think this alliance will help?
I think, look, New Yorkers just need to hear the truth and the facts, you know. They've been mesmerized by TikTok videos and tweets and productions. Let them know the facts. And when they know the facts, we're going to get the Latino vote, we're going to get the black vote, we're going to get the white vote, we're going to get every New Yorker who's a real New Yorker.
Mr. Cuomo, did you offer Mayor Adams anything in return for this?
Don't even answer
Love.
that, Carrie. That's a carry.
Love.
Ignore him. Ignore him.
You used to say that Andrew Cuomo ruined the careers of black politicians. Do you still?
He might not even get the fucking Jewish vote. They look so awkward and defeated. Yeah, well, it's who the Democrats have hitched their ride to. Mamdani campaign response.
Andrew, and you called them names. You criticized Andrew and you called them names. But you know what? Andrew Cuomo is a snake and a liar. Andrew is a double-digit loser. I said, Andrew, are you that level of arrogance? People who run on independent lines are normally just crackpots. This is not, let me stand behind a cocoon somewhere. I always said he didn't have the legs to run in New York. Ask him, when was the last time he was on the subway? Andrew Cuomo was lazy. New Yorkers have 5 fingers. They love the middle one the most. I had to fix his mess. What would he do? He'll manage it away? He'll do a PowerPoint? You know, come on. And you expect for me to step aside when you just lost to Zohran $25 million. He didn't want to be mayor. He didn't campaign. Newsflash. He lost by 13 points. And that's the highest level of arrogance.
Is he still a snake and a liar?
All I know is all my haters become my waiters when I sit down at the table of success.
Never kill yourself. Don't speak too early. We haven't seen the election results yet.